So, there's a new Batman movie coming out soon, and it looks pretty good. I was hoping for something more like the greatest ever version of Batman, by which I obviously mean Batman the animated series. God, it's so fucking good. It seems like we're going further along the path of darkness and realism that Christopher Nolan started us on, which is fine by me, but I find it limiting in terms of which members of Batman's rogues gallery you can include and how they can be portrayed. I mean, I doubt we're going to see Man-Bat, Killer Croc, or Clayface in this new franchise, and I'm sure if they do include the likes of the Mad Hatter, the Ventriloquist, Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, or even Bane again, they'll probably be so stripped down to the point where they're unrecognizable. Which is a shame because his villains are a big part of the Batman character's appeal. I'm also going to make a prediction based on the trailers for the Batman that maybe this will be an anthology movie with each of the three villains getting their own shorter, contained story inside this one movie. Kinda like they did in animation with Batman Gotham Knight, only this time they'll keep the same Batman in all three stories. What are the chances that this is a case? Pretty damn low, but if I'm right, won't I feel like a clever boy?
I am invincible!
But with a new Batman approaching, I've decided to look backwards at the ghosts of Batman's past, all the way back to 1989. The Cold War was coming to an end, the era of Ronald Reagan was over, and Barbra Streisand's former hairdresser gave the director of Pee-wee's Big Adventure $35 to $48 million to make a Batman movie starring a stand-up comedian, the producer's girlfriend, and Jack fucking Nicholson. It's time to talk about Batman.
Let's do this.
For listeners who might not know, refers to the children's character the Batman, a strong gentleman who fights crime nocturnally.
That's correct. Well put.
I don't get it.
Bruce Wayne is a billionaire whose parents were murdered in front of him when he was just a young boy, and now he uses his resources and super kung fu skills to beat up criminals with the help of his sassy butler, his sweet-ass ride, his gadgets, and one of those unspoken rules that criminals will only be naughty boys after working hours, so he won't look ridiculous standing around in his costume in broad daylight like some kind of asshole. Also, his costume looks like a bat, hence Batman, for reasons that are never made clear in this movie. So for the many, many people in the audience who are thinking, what is a Batman anyway? You're welcome.
I still don't get it.
The Joker is possibly the most famous and some would consider best comic book supervillain ever, although a strong case could be made for the non-movie versions of Doctor Doom. But not every Joker is created equal, so what's the crack with this one? He's some kind of gangster who falls into a vat of acid during an encounter with Batman. He actually kind of shoots himself in the face too, which is just so embarrassing for him. He ends up with white skin, red lips, green hair, and after some very high-end plastic surgery, performed by a professional and not at all shady doctor, with state-of-the-art medical equipment in a meticulously sanitary surgical environment. He ends up with a really fucked up face and a permanent rictus grin. All in all, he's had a pretty shitty couple of days, so he kind of snaps and becomes, to paraphrase one of my favorite lines from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, nuttier than squirrel poo. I'll go into more detail later about what the Joker's, let's be generous and use the word plans are, because if you thought that Heath Ledger's Joker was an agent of chaos, well,
Wait till they get a load of me.
all we need to know right now is that he's up to all sorts of no good and Batman's gonna have to stop him. Then there's Vicky Vale, a photojournalist who's investigating the mysterious Batman character, and she's also apparently on the prowl for a sugar daddy, and whoop, what do you know, there's a billionaire right over there. He's rich and he's young and he has a full head of hair and his skin doesn't look like a wrinkly ball sack. I think Vicky Vale just hit the jackpot. She gets romantically involved with Bruce Wayne, though the actual romantic feelings might be a tad one-sided, as we shall see. From that description of the characters and their plot lines, it all seems quite simple, but don't be fooled, dear audience member, because although that is the plot stripped down to its most basic level, if you actually asked me to tell you what happens in the plot of this movie all the way through off the top of my head, I think I'd have a hard time doing it, and it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. So many things happen in this movie. There are so many strange details to discuss, so many elements, scenes, moments, performances that run the gamut between embarrassing and goofy to downright iconic. There's a reason this movie is so remembered. There's a reason it is so successful. There's a reason it deserves its place among the most influential and important movies in the comic book genre and cinema as a whole. But there's also a reason that I have chosen this movie as my next review, because there's just so much to talk about, so much to criticize, so much to praise, so much to point my finger at and say, wait, what? But why did... how... what? Let's get to it, and we will begin at the beginning. Perfect opening. Warner Brothers logo fades to a blue-black night sky, and we hear the Batman theme music for the first time. If you flicked onto this movie on TV and didn't know what it was going to be, you could tell by the first three notes of the music what movie it was. That's the sign of a good score. Danny Elfman composed two of the most recognizable superhero themes ever, Spider-Man and Batman is easily his best. Is it better than John Williams' Superman theme? That's a very tough call. I'd say they're about even, both so perfectly set the tone for the respective heroes that I just can't choose between them. We see the credits as the camera moves through some shadowy tunnels and shapes before pulling back to reveal it's the Batman logo. A very strong start, the tone has been set, this is going to be dark and it's going to be dramatic. Then we get our first glimpse of Gotham City, and you know what? It's good. I like this establishing shot, and I like this shot too. The matte painting gives the city an impressive size, but then we land on this, and you better get used to seeing the Monarch Theatre in the background because it might as well be part of a drinking game. Every time you see the Monarch Theatre, take a shot. It shows up over and over and over again. They already don't feel like real city streets, but the lack of variety in the settings makes Gotham seem like a really small place. Like they only built 3 streets and had to shoot around them to make it look like more. This is the kind of thing I'd expect to see in episodic TV or a soap or some sitcom, although obviously a little bit uglier. The whole thing is the vibe of an MGM musical from the 50s, but like a 50s where we lost World War II and everybody's super depressed, so the musicals turn out very different and there's no singing in them. What the hell am I even talking about? Then we get our first crime, a couple of street goblins rough up a family in the dark, strangely smoke-filled alley, steal their shit, and retire to a nearby rooftop to bitch at each other like an old married couple and argue about the mysterious bat character they've been hearing rumors about, while some dude in a bat costume poses in the background where they can't even see him. This is all looking okay. I would have preferred if Batman had actually interfered while the family was getting mugged and brutally assaulted, rather than watching from a distance. Not very heroic. He also poses a bit too much for my liking. It's very, hey, look at me. He scares them a bit, jumps down. This looks cool, very intimidating, I like it, and then he gets shot and falls down. This is the first appearance of Batman in this movie. The first appearance of Batman in any live-action media since Adam West more than 20 years earlier, and the first thing he does is fall on his back like he slipped on a fucking banana peel? Why? Okay, I know why. They wanted Batman to have this immortal, unkillable aura in the eyes of the criminals of Gotham, but wouldn't it have been more effective to just show the bullets had no effect on him? There are certain things that Batman shouldn't do in a costume that doesn't let you turn your head left or right, and falling on your back is one of them. It just makes him look lame. Anyway, he gets back up, beats up the criminals, uses his gadgets, and it's fun, and then we get this awesomeness.
What are you? I'm Batman.
Then he jumps off the building and disappears. Doesn't contact the police or return the stolen money, but he's made his point and that's what matters. This whole scene is even more of a tone setter than the opening credits. Now we know what to expect. Something lame and embarrassing and confusing, but then something great to make up for it, so it evens out. Oh, by the way, the next time we see these two criminals, they're being arrested, and they must have committed some seriously big-time felonies before mugging that family, because it looks like the whole of Gotham PD has shown up to arrest them. We got 2 ambulances, a couple of squad cars, uniformed officers, plainclothes detectives. Did these guys kidnap the president's daughter or some shit? Because if not, then the GCPD has a suspiciously high number of cops with nothing better to do in an apparently crime-ridden shithole of a city. We quickly find out that this cop is corrupt, which is not exactly surprising given that he might be the worst-looking person I've ever seen and probably smells like cigarettes, sausage, and sweat. But before that, we get to see this Batman's version of Harvey Dent before he becomes Two-Face, and okay, wait a minute. This isn't right. This isn't Harvey Dent. Listen, I don't want to offend anybody watching this video, but it has to be said. All versions of Harvey Dent, from the comics to the cartoons to the Nolan movies, what do these guys have in common? And what's different about this Harvey Dent? Well, I think it's glaringly obvious, and the fact that Tim Burton thought he could get away with this idea and this change is kind of beyond ridiculous. Like, this was 1989. What kind of agenda was he even trying to push anyway? Harvey Dent should never, ever be a mustache guy. Frankly, it would look ridiculous when he becomes Two-Face. How do you take a guy with half a mustache seriously? But in all seriousness, I always forget that Billy Dee Williams plays Harvey Dent in this movie because it's such a nothing role and a nothing performance, and there isn't even anything else to say about it. He doesn't show up for any sequels and gets recast completely in Batman Forever. But there's always the Lego Batman movie for those people who just had to see Billy Dee fucking Williams as Two-Face. But let's not worry ourselves too much about that, because a hero has come to save the movie from being just kind of meh. No, it's not Batman, it's the Joker. That's kind of weird, but not really, because it's Jack fucking Nicholson, and this is why I come back to this movie again and again. This is why it took so long to write this review, because every scene of Nicholson as the Joker is just so much damn fun, and it's funny, and he's so perfect that every time I land on one of these scenes while flicking through the movie, I just have to stop and watch the whole thing. People talk about J.K. Simmons, they talk about Hugh Jackman, they talk about Downey and Reeves and Reynolds, but when it comes to pitch-perfect comic book casting, you have to have Nicholson's Joker right up there with the best of them. I mean, look at him. Look at his fucking face. It's perfect. Okay, maybe not perfect. If I have a nitpick, it would probably be that I wish Nicholson had been a bit younger and a little more in shape than he was. I don't think he should have been jacked, but I think the Joker looks best when he's a bit more wiry. But it isn't just the look, it's the voice. The manic laugh, which actually sounds like a real laugh.
Now get out of here!
Like, he just finds all this shit hilarious. It's the energy and the size of it. This is one of the biggest, loudest, scene-chewingest performances of all time, and Nicholson sells the shit out of every second he's on screen. The best part is that Nicholson agreed to do the movie for $6 million rather than his usual $10 million, so he could get a percentage of the film's grosses and merchandising revenue, which means that he walked away with around $90 million for playing this part. That's almost $200 million in today's money. And that is just, yeah, you know, that seems fair to me. He worked his ass off and basically carries the whole damn movie on his shoulders, so good for him.
Oh, hey, I'm wetting my jockeys here.
It is a little weird seeing the Joker before he becomes the Joker, but I don't really mind it. The only thing that doesn't work is how everyone keeps talking about how he's so crazy. But we don't actually see him doing anything crazy. He actually comes across as a pretty cool and collected guy. He is ambitious because he's plotting to take over from the criminal boss, and he's definitely arrogant. Look at this, he's putting his feet up on the table, he's checking himself out in the mirror, he's boning the boss's girl. Maybe he's a bit of a rascal, but he's not what I would call crazy. But you know what makes him look even less crazy? When he shares scenes with this guy. Now this is a movie where a guy dresses up as a giant bat to fight an older gentleman dressed as a clown, but I swear to Christ, the most over-the-top, hammiest, overacted performance belongs to Jack Palance. I've seen this guy in a few movies: Attack, The Professionals, Contempt, Young Guns, and most importantly, Tango and Cash. Batman and Tango and Cash both came out in '89. They were both made at Warner Brothers and both were produced by John Peters. And I have no way of proving this, but I would not be surprised if you told me that Tim Burton wandered over to the set of Tango and Cash one day during his lunch break, caught a glimpse of Jack Palance's performance in that movie, and just asked him to saunter on over to the Batman set for a couple of hours and give the exact same bonkers performance. He is such a weirdo in both movies. The way he talks and moves his hands is so unnatural and goofy. Even Jack Nicholson's like, okay. But deep down he's thinking,
You are a fucking moron. Too rough.
Jack Palance knows that Nicholson's been putting it to his missus, and let's face it, how could he not? The future Mrs. Rupert Murdoch ain't exactly being subtle, so he sends Nicholson off to commit some shady cover-up crime, tips off the cops in the hopes that they'll kill him in the act.
I was in the bath one day when I realized why I was destined for greatness.
It's around this time that two more characters enter the movie, and although one of the most famous criticisms of this film is that the Joker gets too much screen time compared to Batman himself, I would argue that it's actually these two Jokers that are stealing focus. Although not a bad idea in theory, in execution, giving Bruce Wayne a love interest and squeezing in a comic relief character in the form of stand-up comedian Robert Wuhl was a dreadful decision. Neither character works, and the script doesn't support their existence. I'll go into more detail about the love story that plays out here, but all I can say about Robert Wuhl's Alexander Knox is that he isn't funny and there's no reason for his character to be in this movie. And look, Jack agrees with me.
Who was that loss?
It's Knox.
Bad tie. No style.
There is one good scene later on where he actually gives a pretty solid performance, so I guess he gets a point for that. Alright now, on the surface, you may be under the impression that this is some kind of Batman story where Batman has to fight some crime and stop the Joker, and you would be right, but it's also a story about love. Aww. Unrequited love. Aww. Let us follow our characters' plotlines and see if we can't make sense of this whole thing, starting with the Joker. After his transformation from smooth criminal to, well, Michael Jackson in his later years, he decides to punish Jack Palance for eating up all the scenery and setting him up in a fantastic first-time reveal of the Joker makeup. Then he sees a newspaper and he's not on the cover. Batman is, and this pisses him off, so he decides that he, the Joker, will be the one about whom headlines are written, and this is our introduction to the first of many sides to this character. Let's call this one Joker, the media whore. One would think his problem with Batman would stem from being partially to blame for his fucked up face, but he doesn't seem too bothered by that. No, this Joker doesn't like Batman because he's more famous than him. He's got more views, he's got more likes, oh he's trending, baby. This aspect of the Joker's personality manifests itself as a hatred of any TV that he is not currently appearing on. Confusion over why people are more captivated by a guy in a batsuit than, well, a clown. Creating as many opportunities to appear on TV as he possibly can, even if that means kidnapping and murdering 2 models, interrupting a news broadcast, staging a phony commercial for cosmetics that he openly admits are poisoned after poisoning a news reporter on air. Then when that doesn't work, he gets a little bit desperate and needy, appearing on TV again and promising to dump $20 million in cash on a crowd of people later that night, as well as a fist fight with Batman apparently, which does happen, but nobody gets to see it because it takes place in a bell tower that's like 20 miles above the city, and the Joker's already gassed everybody anyway. He's not exactly a pro at public relations. The whole cosmetics commercial thing is just so classic Joker. It's the exact kind of thing the animated series Joker would do. The lines are hilarious, the production values are terrible, which makes it even more funny, and this
Love that Joker.
is the creepiest goddamn thing, and this line has been stuck in my head for decades.
He was a thief and a terrorist. On the other hand, he had a tremendous singing voice.
Also, what in the hell are these idiots looking at? This is one of those confusingly dumb things I was talking about. He's in a completely different place. They can't see him. That's the mayor, the commissioner of police, and the district attorney right there. No wonder this city's falling apart. All the elected officials are incompetent assholes. Look at this chuckle fuck right here. He's probably the city planner. That's why there's a Monarch Theatre on every street, and the front door of City Hall looks out on a Soviet munitions factory. Just lovely. Other than Joker the media whore, we also get Joker the legitimate businessman. This is a continuation of who he was before his little accident, so it makes sense that it only lasts for a few scenes. He kills his old boss and meets with the heads of the other crime families, at least that's what it looks like. He tells them that he's the president now. President of what exactly? We never find out. And they're going to
Run the city into the ground.
whatever that means. This Joker is very vague about his intentions. He kills one of them hilariously and threatens the rest, and 2 seconds later, after conferring with the charred corpse with the tasteful strawberry polka dot print tie, he decides he'll just kill all the guys at the table, starting with the fat one, who, rather than be sneaky about undermining the Joker's power grab, holds a press conference in front of City Hall and announces it to the world like a fucking idiot. Needless to say, he doesn't last long.
Hello, Vinny. It's your Uncle Bingo. Time to pay the check.
What did that even mean? Jesus, Nicholson says some weird shit in this movie, and only some of it can be translated from crazy to English.
Jesus Marimba.
We're gonna take him out a whole new door!
Big Dukaroo. I'm of a mind to make some mookie. Never rub another man's rhubarb.
After this, Joker's organized crime dealings never actually resurface. Alongside Joker the media whore and Joker the legitimate businessman, we have Joker, the misunderstood artist. This Joker is fashion forward. I can tell because he's wearing a beret. And he likes to express himself creatively, whether that means interior design, scrapbooking, dancing, painting, calligraphy, or horribly disfiguring his girlfriend's face to make her into a living work of art. Well, I don't like it, but who am I to say it's bad? Art is subjective. This Joker claims that he is the world's
First fully functioning homicidal artist.
and this aspect of the Joker never really comes back or has any significant bearing on the plot or the characters, so let's move on to my favorite one. Joker, the lover. Put simply, this Joker wants to fuck Vicky Vale. He's in the middle of one of his many art projects, sees one picture of her, and he's just like,
It will be mine. Oh, yes. It will be mine.
he tricks Vicky into meeting him at the Gotham Museum, which, as far as I can tell, is just one big room and half of it is a restaurant. Okay. This Joker is the master of seduction. He makes sure they are alone for their date. He takes an interest in her photography work.
Crap. 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 Crap.
He brings a flyer, and he brings his ex along with him on the date as if to say, look, babe, don't worry. Yeah, we used to date, but relax, I'm over her. She won't come between us. Plus, you're much prettier than she is. I mean, look at this horrifying acid burn. But then Batman lands in and ruins everything, but this Joker is nothing if not persistent, showing up at her apartment while she's there with Bruce Wayne. Again, he brings flyers. Such a sweet guy.
What What's wrong with her? She's crazy. He's gorgeous.
His ex has killed herself, and then he shoots Bruce Wayne. Spoilers, he's not really dead. As if to make the point that there's no one left to stand in the way of their love. After this, we don't see Joker the lover for a while until during the climax, he bumps into her again and decides to just drop all the subtlety and kidnap her ass. Batman tries to rescue her and fights the Joker's goons while the two of them waltz. Things start to look up for Joker, and Vicky seems to be finally warming to him because she starts, kissing his suit. And then things get a little risque. But alas, she was merely pretending to distract him while Batman sneaks up on him. You know, this reminds me of something.
Jafar, I never realized how incredibly handsome you are.
I also think it was an odd choice for Kim Basinger to play this scene like she's completely wasted or just really sleepy. And at this point, the many aspects of the Joker come to an end with a final and pretty one-sided fight against Batman. He manages to get the upper hand for a second and, just look at this guy. He's so wonderful. And so is this part.
You wouldn't hit a guy with glasses on, would you? Huh?
But this is a Burton Batman movie, so unfortunately he will not be appearing in the sequel due to a mild case of deadness. It's a gruesome death scene too, but I like it a lot.
This town needs an enema.
And so, with the Joker side of things covered, let's jump back in a Tarantino Guy Ritchie Rashomon kind of way and take a look at all of this from a different angle, by which I mean, we need to talk about Vicky Vale.
Excuse me?
Because if there's a weak link and one character is responsible, I'd say it's her because she has got some issues. I mean, everybody in the movie's got issues, but she's got some issues. Her opening lines hint at a sexual attraction to bats.
Like bats. I like bats.
What the fuck did you just say?
Yeah, let that sink in. She teams up with Knox, who's been chasing the Batman story and getting no respect for it. They're going to work together to prove that the Batman does exist and... okay, that sounds okay. Tried and true angle for side characters in a superhero movie. They go to a benefit at Bruce Wayne's house to do some sleuthing and... oh, what is that? How do you mess up so badly? Look at this. He points to the left, and she turns and looks off to the right. They don't achieve much, but she catches the eye of Bruce Wayne and he asks her out, and this is where she becomes less of a woman investigating a vigilante and more of a woman who can't get over the fact that the guy she had a one-night stand with isn't quite that interested. Seriously, he gets her drunk. I mean, let's be fair, he kinda has to because this dialogue is painful to listen to.
Some of it is very much me. Some of it isn't.
And then he sleeps with her. Then he's lying in bed, and you just know what he's thinking. He's thinking, how do I get her to leave? I know, I'll do something incredibly weird and that'll scare her off. He hangs upside down, like a bat, until she wakes up and sees him. But he fucked up because he does not know who he's dealing with. This is the girl who wants to fuck bats. She's not going anywhere. Also, is this the extent of this guy's gym equipment? Gravity boots and 2 dumbbells? What are those, 5s? Next morning, she's like, let's have lunch at my place. And he's like, no, I can't, I'm busy. And then she's like, let's have dinner then. And he's like, no, I can't, I'm busy then too. And I'll be busy for the next few days because I'm leaving town. Then as she's leaving, she runs into Alfred, his butler. And she's like, I'll see you when you get back. And he's like, we're not going anywhere. Alfred, you're the butler to a billionaire playboy. You keep your mouth shut, goddammit. Just be cool, Alfred, be cool, Jesus. Way to be a wingman, Alfred. At this stage, I'd like to think that any rational woman would take the hint and think, oh, he just used me for sex. That sucks. But nope, not Vicky Vale. Because this is where she decides the best use of her time and ability should not be spent looking into the sensational, eye-catching, headline-grabbing Batman story, but instead, she's gonna stalk the guy who humped her and dumped her. She looks up files on him, she sits outside his house in her car waiting for him to leave, and she follows him with a camera. This goes on for a while, and she's so distracted by this Bruce Wayne obsession that she allows herself to be tricked by the Joker and has to be saved by Batman. Then later, after someone lets her into the Batcave, fucking Alfred, the worst fucking Alfred, we'll talk about you in a minute. She's all...
That wasn't just another night for either of us. We both got to each other. I've loved you since I met you. We're gonna try to love each other.
And he's just like, yeah, that's cool, I guess. And then he has to save her from the Joker again. You know what this is? This is what happens when your hero is just too polite. This is what the first Iron Man movie would have been if instead of just getting his assistant to tell that reporter to piss off, Tony Stark just stuck around and was like,
well, this is great. I'll give you a call. We should do it again sometime.
Bruce Wayne should have been like, look, I like you and last night was fun, but you're not exactly girlfriend material, Toots. Now beat it, scram, on your bike, hippity hop to the barbershop.
You weigh a little more than 108.
I'm also quite suspicious of Alfred. He's always trying to get Bruce to keep Vicky around, but then he sells him out by exposing his lies and showing her the Batcave. Think he's just a bad butler? Well, I don't. Him letting her into the Batcave is the equivalent of going, oh, you like him, huh? Yeah, I guess he's cool and all, but did you know about his fantastically creepy and off-putting hobby? Here, let me show you. He pressures Bruce into keeping her around and then sabotages him to make himself look better.
Well, I think I've embarrassed him for long enough. Good night, sir.
He's really wonderful.
I think he wants Vicky Vale too, just like the Joker. Oh, and Knox too. Knox wants Vicky Vale too. And Vicky wants Bruce, but he just wants to be Batman in peace. It's not a love triangle, it's a love pentagon, and it saps the energy and focus from this movie and what the story should be focusing on instead, Batman and the Joker. If any superhero didn't need a love interest for them to work in a movie, it would be Batman. Could it have been done better? Sure. Just lose the Knox character and have Vicky Vale be the one interested in Batman. She meets Bruce Wayne and there's an attraction, but they don't have sex because that's boring and it destroys the sexual tension. Maybe have them kiss at the end of the movie. The Joker should be focused on his criminal stuff and Batman and should not be trying to fuck Vicky Vale. It's funny and it gives Jack Nicholson a lot of great moments, but it's just not interesting. Unfortunately, the plot is a mess, but this movie is also littered with great scenes, and again, unfortunately, some not so great scenes. A great scene. The surgery scene makes the perfect choice not to reveal the Joker makeup right away, but instead to build anticipation with the character's reactions to what they can see on his face. Because if there's one character in all of cinema for whom it's always easy to build a great introduction, it's the Joker. In this movie alone, he gets 6 great introductions.
You can call me Joker. Honey, you'll never believe what happened to me today.
And what's with that stupid grin?
Life's been good to me.
Perfectly legitimate. It is legitimate.
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Miss me?
Not so great scene, the Batmobile chase. I don't like the idea of Batman being chased by henchmen and then abandoning his car and running away. The only people Batman should ever run from is the police. The fight scenes are pretty good, but the Batmobile moves way too slowly. They only drive through maybe 3 streets, and of course, we see the fucking Monarch Theater again, and it's not very exciting. I do like this effect when the shields cover the Batmobile.
Alfred, have a glass of water.
Great scene, when the Joker meets with the other mob bosses and electrocutes the guy with the hand buzzer. Even though this guy probably gives the worst, oh no, I'm being electrocuted acting I've ever seen. He seems mildly put out at most. Then Nicholson gives a really unflattering impersonation of Jack Palance from earlier in the movie, which is a pretty ballsy move seeing as this is the guy who won an Oscar for playing a gruff cowboy and then hopped up on the podium, made the claim that he takes shits bigger than Billy Crystal before dropping down for some one-arm push-ups. He'll knock the shit out of you.
Don't let it happen again.
I hate the way the room is painted, but Jack Nicholson talking to a burnt corpse is just amazing. And again, he has the perfect Joker laugh. Not so great scene. When the Joker rides on the parade float and throws money to the crowd, everything just feels very off and it reveals a problem that permeates the movie. There are not enough extras and the sound of the city is unconvincing. When I was a young lad, around Christmas time, we'd go down to the city centre where a guy dressed as Santa would sit on top of a fire engine and throw tiny bags of gummy sweets into the crowd. My question is, why was that crowd hoping to catch a packet of sweets that cost maybe 10p, larger than the one that showed up to watch a guy in a bat costume fight a clown that was tossing $20 million in cash from from a parade float carrying giant balloons while playing Prince music. The lack of people isn't helped by the fact that the sounds of the crowd are only heard when the camera is on them and not when it cuts back to Jack Nicholson. I mean, look at these scenes. There should be more people here, and this part, that's clearly a giant picture pretending to be a city in the background, but the windows are open. Why can't I hear traffic? All this makes Gotham feel much more artificial than it needed to be. Great scene. Joker trashing the art gallery is so much fun. In general, I don't like the Prince music when it appears in the movie, or any music that appears in the movie that isn't the score. Except for this scene, because it's a good song for one thing, and for another, it fits the tone of the scene. And these guys playing the Joker's goons, there's no way this wasn't the most fun they've ever had. Look at their faces, they're fucking loving it. The interaction between these two is just more Nicholson greatness, and the choice to have him wear normal skin color makeup over his white skin is a really good decision, and not just because of this scene. Before I talk about the two most prominent great and not so great scenes, I will say that any scene between Bruce and Vicky Vale is usually a complete snoozer. And if you want a better vehicle for Kim Basinger's talents, watch LA Confidential. In fact, just watch LA Confidential. You don't need a better reason than it's fantastic. Now, my opinion on this may be slightly controversial, but I like the reveal that Joker was the guy who killed Bruce Wayne's parents. I know it doesn't happen that way in the comics, but from a storytelling point of view, I think it works. It gives the conflict between the hero and the villain a more personal edge, and frankly, with the way the plot has been playing out up to this point, I need something to make me care just a little bit about these characters. This reveal doesn't quite get me there, but the way the scene plays out scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. I find it unsettling every time I've watched it since, and just writing about it now is giving me goosebumps. The angles and the sound editing and the music really capture the feeling of witnessing a nightmare while you're still awake. It has the feeling of slow motion without actually using it. It's probably the best directed sequence in the movie and the best portrayal of the death of Bruce Wayne's parents ever. But before we get to watch that scene, first we must endure the scene where Bruce Wayne and the Joker show up to Vicky Vale's apartment at the same time. Joker's still going through his love phase, and Bruce has inexplicably decided that he should reveal that he's Batman to a woman he met seemingly 3 days ago who is also a journalist. I am of course talking about the let's get nuts scene. Bruce Wayne trying to think of the right words to explain his life situation is awful and seems to go on forever.
All right, listen. You know how a normal person gets up and goes downstairs and eats breakfast and kisses somebody goodbye and...
Get on with it! Fucking say it already, Jesus.
But it starts off strong with this part.
Must be some kind of jerk.
Look, you're a real nice girl and I like you a lot, but for right now, shut up.
He can't quite get the words out before the Joker shows up and Bruce decides to hide in the... I'm sorry, but watching this scene only convinces me more and more that Vicky Vale is a fucking psycho. Would you look at those dolls? Why does she have dolls? And why do they look so friggin' creepy? And why the hell is there a giant bowl of popcorn on the mantelpiece? Is it a decoration? She wasn't watching a movie before all these rude people decided to show up without calling first. She can't just be keeping it there like a candy dish. It'll get dusty for God's sake. And you can't just wash dust off popcorn. It'll get soggy. Then in the middle of this crazy scene, she just starts eating it. Can somebody get Miss Basinger a donut, please? She's eating the props. So why is it called the Let's Get Nuts scene? Well, and this is just speculation on my part, but my guess is that Michael Keaton actually just went nuts during a take, delivered the strangest out of fucking nowhere monologue, and Tim Burton just decided to leave the scene in the movie. Or maybe Keaton was behind the scenes for the filming of some of Nicholson's parts and was thinking, wow, he gets to talk so much. But isn't this movie called Batman? Aren't I playing Batman? Shouldn't I get some more lines? Well, Batman can't talk too much, that would be stupid. But maybe I could demand a scene where Bruce Wayne gets extra dialogue. Yeah. And Jack looks like he's having fun. Maybe I should go really big for my scene, show off my range. And maybe Jack could be in the scene too, so he could see how good a dramatic actor I am. And the result? From the moment Nicholson says,
Bruce Wayne, n'est-ce pas?
To the moment when Keaton, forehead vein throbbing and fire poker at the ready, screams,
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
we are treated to a symphony of the bizarre. I don't know what Keaton's talking about, and I don't know why he's saying it. He's wearing makeshift body armor under his shirt. Is he trying to goad the Joker into shooting him? Why would he do that? He must know he doesn't stand a chance with the fire poker. But what really breaks it is this. Look at Nicholson's face. He has broken character. He's no longer the Joker. He's an actor in makeup and face paint wearing a purple suit. He looks like he has no fucking idea what's happening. He does his best. He tries to play along and not ruin the scene, but mostly, he looks like the one sane man left in the world looking for someone, somewhere to reassure him that he's not the crazy one. He keeps looking around for someone to tell him what's happening. You can almost see the words forming on his lips. Tim, What's Keaton doing? Tim, are you there? Was this in the script? How's my character supposed to react to this? And all the while, Kim Basinger's munching popcorn like she thinks the camera isn't rolling, because why on earth would it be for this? Then the Joker shoots him and he plays dead. Again, why does he do this? What would he have done if Joker took Vicky Vale and ran off? And why does he disappear right after? One would think he's rushing off to get into his Batsuit to chase the Joker, but the next time we see him, he's just brooding in the Batcave. So yeah, that's the Let's Get Nuts scene, and it is indeed nuts. It's not all bad. Nicholson once again is the shining light in any scene, and he has some great lines. I like the way Bruce and the Joker both comment on the amount of space Vicky Vale's apartment has. Of course she has a giant apartment on a journalist's salary. It's a crime-ridden city without enough people to make a street crowd look crowded. The real estate prices must be phenomenal. I also love this guy carrying around a boombox so the Joker has his own soundtrack.
This is hot?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's real hot.
Some other likes and dislikes and questions I have would be, anytime someone wears jeans, it takes me out of the movie. I feel like they're going for a noir 50s timeless aesthetic, and although there were jeans in the 50s, they were more associated with youth subcultures like greasers. I can't picture billionaires wearing them, even if they do make their asses look fantastic. Why does everyone in Gotham City look like they have the plague? I can understand the two muggers at the beginning because they seem to live on the streets and, you know, evil people are ugly, duh. But look at these people. The Joker poisoned all the cosmetics, but I don't think the solution is to stop showering and use cooking grease instead of makeup and moisturizer. Why do so many of the side characters have weird names? I mean, they're not bad names, but why didn't they use names from the comic books? Like Jack Palance's character, Carl Grissom. Why not crime boss characters from the comics like Carmine Falcone, Sal Maroni, or Morgan Edge? I don't know the comics that well, but I'm sure there are actual reporter characters whose names they could have used for the Knox part. And why is it Axis Chemicals instead of Ace Chemicals? Small things like that kind of bother me. I like Keaton in the Batsuit. He does the right thing with his voice, which is not very much. He just brings it down to a lower register, and the costume still looks great. Although that's mostly because they make the correct choice of only shooting it in dark locations, except for this part, but we don't exactly get a good look at him here. I like how he acts as Bruce Wayne, but I would have liked to have seen him be a bit more of a commanding presence. I get that being unremarkable is a good act to pull off when you're secretly Batman, but he's still supposed to be a billionaire and the head of a company. There's actually a few things that I assume going into this that aren't actually explored in the movie, such as how Bruce Wayne makes his money, or more importantly, why he decided to become Batman. We assume it's the usual, to protect Gotham and its people the way he couldn't protect his parents, but what he says is...
Why?
Because nobody else can.
Now that's closer to Spider-Man territory than anything else.
With great power comes great responsibility.
This is one of the sacrifices that are made when the script focuses more on the Joker and Vicky Vale than on Batman as a character, and it is a serious flaw. Is Vicky Vale secretly training to become a Jedi? I love how the Joker's makeup is so very white that it still pops out in the darkness. I love the Joker's giant gun. I love Keaton's expression when he's watching the Joker on TV. He's just like, huh, this is a weird commercial. I like the scene where Knox discovers what happened to Bruce Wayne's parents. It's the only scene I like Robert Wolin because he's playing it straight and he's showing a little sympathy to his romantic rival. I love Bob the Goon. He's just such a reliable henchman, and apparently he's a fucking amazing photographer. Look at those shots. Nicholson just got the producers to hire his mate to play the part, and he's pretty memorable, as is his bizarre and heartbreaking death scene.
Bob? Gun.
I love the Joker's goofy dance moves. He does a lot of dancing in the movie, and it's always fun, especially when he's working the cane too. I love all of Nicholson's joke shop merchandise, the extendo boxing glove, the electric hand buzzer, the chattering teeth, the flyer, the laughing bag, the gun, the fake hand that he pulls out of nowhere. These are all things that the Joker should own. I love this line.
Beauty and the Beast. Of course, if anyone else calls you Beast, I'll rip their lungs out.
And I love this line too.
She's dating some guy named Wayne.
She's about to trade up.
I like when the Batmobile is driving through the woods. It looks cool, and the music's great, and the Batcave and the Batcomputer and the Batmobile itself all look great. Also, I didn't really talk about this much, but the sequences of the Batplane flying look fantastic. Yes, even this cheesy shot. What can I say? It works. I like the finale in the cathedral. It gives me a Phantom of the Opera, Hunchback of Notre Dame kind of gothic feeling that works well with this character, and a town called Gotham should always have at least one giant creepy cathedral. Can you even imagine what kind of person goes to church in this thing? Commissioner Gordon's a nothing character in this, and the 3 other Batman movies starring Pat Hingle in the role, and it's a waste of a great character. There aren't many fight scenes in the movie, but they're quite good. They clearly got a bunch of martial artists to play the Joker's henchmen, so they look good doing the fight scenes. I don't like the look of Wayne Manor. It's way too old-fashioned and dreary. Not in a gothic cool way, but more in an out-of-date hotel whose former grandeur has gone to seed kind of way. It looks unpleasant in a very real, familiar, and uncomfortable sense. I don't like how slow Batman is when he uses his gadgets. Surely editing could have made this look a bit faster, and all the bad guys just stand around and watch him to give him time to do what he needs to do. I've decided after watching this through so many times that the part of the reason it doesn't sit well with me is the set design. There's just something unpleasant and artificial in the style and coloring of the locations. I've talked about the exterior street shots, but I'm not crazy about the interiors either. Wayne Manor, Grissom's office, the newsroom, the bullpen of the Gotham Globe, even Vicky Vale's apartment, which goes for an Art Deco approach and does look interesting, but it still makes me feel uncomfortable with its off-putting cream coloring and creepy nude painting in the hallway. I'm not saying they should have shot on location like the Nolan movies, but they could have made it look not ugly.
Jack, you said I could watch you improve the paintings.
Oh, I'm in trouble now.
Batman was a massive box office success, and thank God it was. Without it, we wouldn't have had cinematic gems like The Shadow, The Phantom with Billy Zane, or Dick Tracy, which is actually a wild movie, by the way. It is worth watching if you haven't seen it, but I recommend watching Batman the movie from 1966 first for 2 reasons. First, because it's hilarious, and second, because if you look at the Burton Batman as a gritty reimagining of the 60s Batman instead of a live-action version of the darker Batman comics from the 80s, I think it works a lot better. Is this the best Batman movie? No. Is it the worst Batman movie? Again, no. It's not a great movie, but it's mostly saved from being dull and boring by the iconic and memorable performance of Jack Nicholson, the solid job of Michael Keaton, which basically set the tone for future Batman, like Kevin Conroy, Val Kilmer, Christian Bale, and Ben Affleck, but not George Clooney, who for some reason plays Bruce Wayne and Batman the exact same way, the definitive Batman score by Danny Elfman, and some fun visuals and sequences. The script was in development for a long time, and a number of different writers worked on it, and it absolutely shows in the final product, but it could have been a lot worse. How could it have been better? Lose the love story, simplify the Joker storyline, give him just one goal and make it clear what he's trying to achieve by doing the crazy things he does, and most importantly, more Bruce Wayne and more Batman. Who is he and why does he do what he does the way he does it? Make it seem like Gotham is actually a place where people live by hiring more extras and shooting some scenes in the real world. And most importantly, cut out the let's get nuts scene and bring me the head of the man responsible.
You must be joking.
Do I look like I'm joking?
Thank you very much for watching my Batman review. I hope you enjoyed it. And watching this movie actually gave me a strong desire to watch Batman Returns again. Maybe my perspectives on that film have changed too. How will the 2 movies compare with each other? I may make a review, I may not. We'll see how I feel. Please like and subscribe, follow me on Twitter, leave a comment down below, let me know what you thought of Batman. Did you agree or disagree with any of my points? Do you have any points of your own? Are you looking forward to the new Batman? I'll be back soon with more reviews, and I'll see you then.